don't think I've ever made a secret out of my like cancer history, but I've also never made an entire video about it. And I thought, let's change that today, because honestly, it's just part of me. And that's also what I want to talk about today. How has my outlook on life changed because of having cancer? Because I'm a cancer survivor. And this is of course not a complete picture. It can be different for everyone. It really depends on your cancer history. Similar things can happen to you for other reasons. And after all, I can't really say how it would be if I had never had cancer. But still, let's start and let's kind of dive into the things I think I'm seeing differently now. This first one might be really understandable, but it's also really sad, and it's that I can't completely trust my body again. And because I had cancer as a kid, it's kind of, I maybe grew up like this, but I realized it more so when I was maybe 16 or older. I don't know, having a certain symptoms over a few days or something like that. Many of us think like, oh, should I go see a doctor? It could be something bad. But then most of us would also think like, nah, it's me, it's not gonna happen to me. But it happened to me, and my body betrayed me once. That is how it feels. So how am I gonna know that it's not happening again? Like, not even because of medical possibilities or anything like that, just because it did happen. It feels like I'm not safe. Like, even the symptoms that kind of gave away or that made my parents take me to the doctor were like, because I was constipated and my tummy was hard and it kind of didn't go away. But these are very, very normal things. So usually this shouldn't like ring alarm bells or anything. Or like you should go see the doctor whenever something's wrong, right? But what I mean is just that because it happened once, because it feels like my body betrayed me, it's really, really hard for me to completely trust it again. And honestly, I think a lot of people have that. Like, I know a lot of people that are very anxious about possibly being very sick suddenly or not knowing something about their body. But I think for me, it's because of my cancer history, because otherwise in other areas of life, I'm very, very trusting and very much so a person that says, it's gonna be fine, like we'll figure it out. I'm sure it's gonna be just okay. And in this department, I don't feel that way. Moving on to something slightly less depressing maybe, and that is that for my future, like for my life expectancy, I don't know. Like, I'm healthy now, and I know pretty much, or I really hope that over the next few years, the next decade maybe, it's gonna stay that way, because now I'm healthy. But I really don't know how the treatments I went through are gonna affect me later on. Like, how am I gonna be at 60, 70, 80? Am I even gonna be able to be that old? It's just like an extra thing, more so than maybe other people deal with, because we're never sure. Because I know the treatments, I know what was done to my body, what was necessary to make me survive, but I don't know how this is going to affect my health in the long run. And I think this is very much part of life. No matter if you have like health issues or if you don't have any health issues, we never know how long we're gonna live. Everything can always happen, like every single day. But I feel like this is a bit more present in my life maybe, because it's not exactly the same, and because I really don't know how it's affecting me in the long run. Wow, it's getting lighter outside again. But that's not only a bad thing, because I think part of what makes life amazing is that it's like not for granted, that we don't have eternities. And I think that can make it easier for us to stay in the moment and to make sure we follow our values and do the things that are important to us. And I'm pretty sure that maybe my cancer history has an impact on how I see the world, how I see my life, how I set priorities, because I'm like beyond my peers, not sure how I'm gonna live, if I'm gonna live in 50, 60, 70 years. No, 70 years. No way. I'm not gonna be 100, I think. But then actually a more positive thing is that I think because of my cancer history and because of the things that I described just now, is that I am not okay with sacrificing my present for my future. I think I felt this very much when I was studying, that I was kind of doing something that I really don't enjoy in the moment for a certain future to be able to have that degree. And I think nothing's wrong with that. I think it's a good idea. And I think we really oftentimes need to do that, to like do something that doesn't feel great right now to have something later on. But I think because I feel like not much is granted, because I feel like I can't expect to retire and have a healthy body to then go travel around the world, I am paying a lot of attention to making sure that I'm enjoying my life right now. Like, I don't just want to build my career in my 20s, to maybe have kids in my 30s, to then maybe have own real estate in my 40s. Any things like these, if I'm not also enjoying it. I want to make sure that I like how I do it in my life right now. I don't want to work too much. I also want to have free time. I want to enjoy my life now. And I think that kind of shows if I look back on my life and ask myself, like, if I'm happy with the decisions that I made. And so far, yes. And I know many people are happy with the decision they made, with the decisions, with how they spent their time and everything. But since I'm making sure that I'm kind of getting the best out of present and the near future, I think it's easier to look back and think like, if I died now, if I died in a year, there's just not much I put off. And that is very much how I feel, and that makes me happy. And I think if it's possible, it would be great if most of us could live that way, because as I said before, none of our futures are granted and we never know what's going to happen. And overall, I think this makes me a very happy person, to be sure that I look after myself in the present, that I don't just work for some future that I hope to have someday. And then another thing, I'm only alive because of modern medicine. Like, there was no chance I would have survived if not for modern hospitals and technology and diagnosing and surgery and radio and chemotherapy. And looking back, I realized that really put me at mercy and into the control of my parents and doctors and the medical system in Switzerland and our insurance and luck and privilege. And that's kind of a crazy thought, because yes, we're always in the hands of our parents, and our parents have a lot of power and control over us as kids. But in my case, my chances of surviving so much more kind of depended on the actions of my parents, on whether they wanted me to get a treatment or not, and on the decisions of doctors and everything like that. And that kind of just makes me feel different. It's just very different compared to maybe my son, because yes, my son has of course visited doctors before as well, and it just makes sense to, we have this medical system and it helps us being as healthy as possible. But he would have survived no matter if we visited doctors or not. He would have been fine and everything, but I would have just died. And this also kind of leads me to this belief, knowledge, feeling of like, community is important and systems are important. And this means that even though I'm like a huge fan of kind of living on my own, looking after myself, I also know that these systems are so important. There's no sovereignty in a sense of like, I'm on my own and I can do everything I need, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need professionals, sometimes you need other people. And the knowledge and the research of the past few hundred years, and that of course also raises ethical and religious questions for some people, like what is meant to be and things like that. And I think that is maybe also part of why sometimes this makes me angry. I'm not going to open up all of that, but I think you understand what I want to say when I just realized that my body, my existence, my life depended on so many things, and maybe more so than other people's, or in a different way. And I'm so thankful to be alive, and I'm so happy that I got this chance. In my life, it doesn't really feel so much as like a second chance, just because I was a kid. I was still really little. So kind of everything I remember, or most of the things I remember, were after having cancer, after, or like during the treatment maybe. So this is my life. My life is mostly after cancer. And it's oftentimes, many days, it doesn't feel like this is part of my history. Like I forget that I had cancer. It doesn't affect me, my everyday life. And I'm very thankful for that. But on the other hand, I think it's ingrained and part of me way more than I maybe realize. And there are always situations, questions, moments where it affects my life. And I think I'm a different person. Of course, I'm a different person because of this history. And for some part, we're all just the product of our history, right? But I wanted to make this video for you to maybe give you a little bit more insight into how something like this can look. But then, of course, as I said, we're all different. So other cancer survivors might see it completely differently. And I'm not going to claim any position of like being right or speaking for anyone else. But I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe it was interesting. And please let me know if you have similar thoughts, if there were events in your life that changed the way you see the world, yourself, your body. I would be really interested to read them. And maybe other people could benefit from that as well. So I'm going to link your video here as well that you can check out. And I do want to say thank you so much to all of you who are supporting me on Patreon. But also if you've watched the video until now, this really helps out my channel. So I hope to see you there or in my next video. And now I hope you have a good time and a good week. And until next time, goodbye.